In the glittering skyscrapers of New York City, where fortunes were made and broken with the stroke of a pen, Alexander Harrington reigned supreme as the CEO of Harrington Global Logistics, a powerhouse in the international shipping industry. At 35, he was the epitome of success. Tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing blue eyes and a jawline that could cut glass. His dark hair was always impeccably styled, and his tailored suits screamed old money, even though he'd clawed his way up from a modest background through sheer ambition and ruthless business acumen. The company, under his leadership, had expanded from a regional freight hauler to a global empire, ferrying everything from luxury yachts to essential goods across oceans, raking in billions annually. Alexander's face graced the covers of Forbes and Businessweek, and his name was synonymous with innovation in an industry often bogged down by bureaucracy. But behind the boardroom charisma and the high-stakes deals, his personal life was a carefully curated facade. For 5 years, Alexander had been married to Isabella Voss, a woman whose quiet elegance had initially captivated him. They met at a charity gala 6 years prior, where she was volunteering as a coordinator for an environmental nonprofit. Isabella was 28 then, with long auburn hair that cascaded like waves, emerald green eyes that sparkled with intelligence, and a smile that could disarm even the most cynical investor. She came from what she described as a simple family in upstate New York, and she had a grounded, unpretentious charm that contrasted sharply with the high society vultures circling Alexander's world. He proposed within a year, drawn to her stability amid his chaotic schedule of mergers, acquisitions, and endless travel. Their wedding was a lavish affair on a private island in the Caribbean, attended by tycoons and celebrities, but Isabella insisted on keeping it intimate. No paparazzi, no over-the-top extravagance. To the public, they were the perfect power couple. Him, the driven mogul; her, the supportive wife who occasionally appeared at his side for red carpet events, always dressed in understated designer gowns that highlighted her natural beauty. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form long before the storm hit. Isabella had always been the pillar of their marriage, handling the home front while Alexander jetted off to Shanghai or Rotterdam for negotiations. She managed their sprawling penthouse in Manhattan with grace, hosting dinner parties for his executives and even dipping her toes into the company's philanthropy arm, focusing on sustainable shipping practices. Yet, intimacy had waned. Alexander's work consumed him, and their attempts to start a family had been met with heartbreak, a miscarriage 2 years into their marriage that left Isabella devastated and Alexander retreating further into his professional shell. He blamed himself privately but never voiced it, instead pouring more energy into the business. Isabella, ever resilient, threw herself into yoga, reading, and quiet hobbies, but the loneliness gnawed at her. She loved him deeply, but she sensed his growing detachment, the late nights at the office that stretched into dawns. Enter Sophia Lang, the 24-year-old intern who joined Harrington Global's marketing department just 6 months ago. Fresh out of Columbia University with a degree in business communications, Sophia was a vision of youthful ambition and allure. Blonde, with a lithe figure honed by daily Pilates classes, and eyes like sapphire pools, she turned heads in the office from day one. Hired through a prestigious internship program, she was sharp, innovative, and unafraid to challenge ideas in meetings, qualities that caught Alexander's eye during a team presentation on rebranding the company's eco-friendly initiatives. What started as professional mentorship quickly blurred into something more. Late-night strategy sessions in his corner office overlooking the Hudson River turned flirtatious, with Sophia's laughter filling the air like champagne bubbles. She idolized him, calling him the visionary behind the empire, and Alexander, starved for admiration amid the pressures of leadership, found himself enchanted by her energy. It was innocent at first, a shared coffee here, a lingering glance there, but soon, stolen kisses in the executive elevator escalated to passionate encounters in luxury hotel suites during business trips. Isabella noticed the change in Alexander almost immediately. He was home less, more distracted when he was. his phone buzzing incessantly with messages he dismissed as work. She confronted him gently one evening over a candlelit dinner she had prepared, her voice soft but steady. Alex, you've been so distant lately. Is everything okay at the office? He brushed it off with a kiss on her forehead, assuring her it was just the stress of an upcoming acquisition of a rival shipping firm in Europe. But deep down, guilt twisted in his gut. Sophia represented excitement, a escape from the routine of his marriage, and the nagging reminder of their infertility struggles. He rationalized it as a harmless fling, something to blow off steam, but as weeks turned to months, his feelings deepened. Sophia whispered dreams of a future together, of traveling the world on his private jet, and Alexander, blinded by infatuation, began to see her as his soulmate, the one who truly understood his drive. Meanwhile, Isabella was harboring a secret of her own, one that could upend everything. Unbeknownst to Alexander, she wasn't the ordinary woman he thought. Her real name was Isabella Harrington. Yes, Harrington, the same surname as her husband's company, though he had always assumed it was coincidence. She was the hidden heiress to the Harrington shipping dynasty, a vast empire founded by her great-grandfather in the early 20th century. The family business had splintered decades ago due to internal feuds, with her branch going underground to avoid the spotlight in corporate wars. Isabella's father, Elias Harrington, had passed away 5 years ago, leaving her as the sole inheritor of a fortune estimated at over $50 billion, including controlling stakes in shipping routes, ports, and a fleet of vessels that dwarfed even Alexander's operations. She had changed her last name to Voss upon meeting him, fearing that revealing her identity would taint their relationship, make it seem like she was after his success. Instead, she lived modestly, donating anonymously to causes and investing quietly through trusts. Only her closest confidants, like her loyal assistant and a few family lawyers, knew the truth. She had planned to tell Alexander after they had children, to merge their worlds seamlessly, but the miscarriage and his growing distance delayed it indefinitely. As Isabella's suspicions grew, she discovered she was pregnant again, a miracle after years of trying, confirmed by a discreet doctor's visit. Overjoyed but terrified, she bought a delicate silver locket engraved with, "Our future," to surprise him. That night, she prepared his favorite meal, seared scallops with risotto, a bottle of vintage Bordeaux chilling on ice. Alexander arrived late, his tie loosened, smelling faintly of Sophia's perfume. Isabella's heart sank, but she pushed forward, her hands trembling as she handed him the pregnancy test. Alex, we're going to have a baby. Our family, it's happening. For a split second, his eyes widened in shock, a flicker of joy crossing his face. But then, his expression hardened. He set the test down gently, his voice measured. Isabella, this changes nothing. I've been meaning to talk to you. What followed was a conversation that shattered her world. Alexander confessed to the affair, admitting that Sophia was more than a fling, she was the woman he wanted to build a life with. She's young, vibrant, understands the pressures I face. We've grown apart, Isabella. The pregnancy, it's too late. I want a divorce. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pleaded, recalling their vows, the dreams they shared. But he was resolute, citing the emotional toll of their losses and his need for happiness. I still care about you, but I can't pretend anymore. Sign the papers, I'll make it generous. You deserve better than a marriage that's dying. Devastated, Isabella agreed, her voice breaking. If that's what you want, Alex. But know this, our child will always come first. The next few days were a blur. Alexander moved into a corporate apartment, filing for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. The tabloids, tipped off by an anonymous source likely Sophia's doing for publicity, exploded with headlines. CEO dumps devoted wife for steamy office romance. Isabella retreated to their penthouse, her hand protectively over her still flat belly, vowing to protect her child at all costs. She confided in her lawyer, who urged her to reveal her identity during the proceedings. It could secure her leverage in custody and assets. But pride held her back, she didn't want Alexander back out of obligation. Instead, she began quietly mobilizing her resources, contacting family advisors about reclaiming her birthright publicly. Word of the divorce spread like wildfire through the office. Sophia, now promoted to junior executive, strutted around with a smug grin, already planning a lavish getaway with Alexander. He showered her with gifts, diamond earrings, a designer wardrobe, envisioning a future unburdened by the past. But whispers among the staff questioned his judgment. Isabella had always been kind, tipping generously and remembering birthdays. Alexander dismissed the gossip, focused on sealing the European deal that would cement his legacy. Isabella, meanwhile, felt the weight of betrayal but also a spark of resolve. Nausea from morning sickness mingled with resolve as she pored over documents in her study. Her empire's ships dotted the seas, and soon, the world would know who she truly was. The exposure was coming, and with it, a reckoning that would rock the shipping world to its core. As she gazed out at the city lights, she whispered to her unborn child, "We'll be okay. Mommy's got a plan." Little did Alexander know, the woman he discarded held the keys to a fortune that could sink his entire operation. The drama was just beginning, and part 1 of this saga was far from over. Word count 1028. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Elena Harrington stepped forward, her hand gently cradling the subtle swell of her belly. At 8 months pregnant, she moved with a grace that belied the storm raging inside her. The judge, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair, peered over her glasses at the assembled parties. Alexander, Alex, Harrington, the CEO of Harrington Logistics, sat rigidly in his tailored suit, his jaw set in defiance. Beside him, his attorney shuffled papers, while across the aisle, the young intern, Sophia Grant, fidgeted nervously, her eyes darting away from Elena's gaze. The divorce papers had been filed just weeks after Alex's affair became public, but Elena had demanded this hearing to address the assets and, more importantly, to reveal what no one in the room, least of all her soon-to-be ex-husband, knew. "Your Honor," Elena began, her voice steady and resonant, "I agree to the dissolution of our marriage on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. However, I must disclose certain facts that will impact the division of assets." Alex leaned forward, his brow furrowing. He'd always seen Elena as the quiet, supportive wife, the one who'd worked behind the scenes at his company, handling minor administrative tasks while he built the empire. She'd been the perfect partner, unassuming, devoted, and seemingly content with her role as the mother-to-be of their first child. But now, as she spoke, there was an unfamiliar steel in her tone. The judge nodded. "Proceed, Mrs. Harrington." Elena took a deep breath, her eyes locking onto Alex's. "For the past 5 years, I've concealed my true identity to protect our marriage and allow Alex to succeed on his own merits. But that ends today. I am not Elena Smith, the ordinary woman he married. I am Elena Voss, sole heiress to Voss Shipping Enterprises, the largest privately held shipping conglomerate in the world, valued at over $15 billion. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Alex's face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Sophia's eyes widened in shock, and even the judge blinked in surprise. Voss Shipping. The name evoked images of global dominance. Fleets of massive container ships crisscrossing oceans, contracts with governments and corporations alike, a legacy built by Elena's grandfather from nothing into an untouchable dynasty. Alex had always prided himself on turning Harrington Logistics into a mid-tier player, but now it dawned on him. Elena's support had been the invisible hand propping up his every deal. Flashback to their early days. Elena had met Alex at a charity gala 5 years ago, posing as a simple event coordinator to escape the suffocating world of her family's wealth. She'd fallen for his ambition, his charm, and his drive to prove himself without handouts. When they married, she vowed to keep her identity secret, believing it would strengthen their bond. Behind the scenes, though, she'd funneled Voss resources into Harrington Logistics, securing prime docking rights in key ports, influencing boardroom decisions through anonymous investments, even ensuring that competitors mysteriously backed off major bids. Alex's company had grown from a regional hauler to a national force, all thanks to her. He dismissed her pregnancies as a minor setback, but the truth was, she'd hidden her heiress status to let him shine. Now, as the reality sank in, Alex stammered, this can't be right. Elena, what are you talking about? Boss shipping. That's impossible. Elena smiled faintly, pulling a thick dossier from her briefcase and handing it to the bailiff. It's all here, Your Honor. Birth records, trust documents, and a full audit of the financial support I've provided to Harrington Logistics. Over $500 million in indirect aid, disguised as loans and partnerships to avoid scrutiny. I did it for love, but no more. The judge flipped through the pages, her expression shifting from skepticism to astonishment. Mr. Harrington, were you aware of this? Alex shook his head vehemently, his mind racing. How had he missed the signs? The luxury vacations she downplayed as gifts from friends, the effortless connections she made in the industry, the way she'd always known exactly when to advise him on risky deals. Rage bubbled up, mixed with a dawning horror. He'd thrown it all away for Sophia, the ambitious intern who'd flattered his ego during late nights at the office. Sophia, who now looked like she wanted to sink into her seat, realizing the scandal's magnitude. As the hearing progressed, Elena's lawyers laid out the terms. No alimony for her, she didn't need it. But child support. For the baby, full custody rights, and a complete severance of any Voss ties to Harrington Logistics. Moreover, her attorney added, upon revelation, Mrs. Voss, excuse me, Ms. Voss, will be withdrawing all support. Effective immediately, Harrington Logistics will lose access to Voss ports, contracts, and supply chains. Alex's attorney jumped up. Objection. This is coercion. The company will collapse. The judge overruled, her gavel tapping sharply. The court recognizes the deception but also the marital contributions. The division stands. Divorce granted. Outside the courthouse, paparazzi swarmed like locusts. Alex, disheveled and pale, pushed through the crowd, Sophia trailing behind him like a shadow. No comment. He barked, but the questions flew. Mr. Harrington, did you know your wife was a billionaire? How does it feel to lose everything for an intern? Elena emerged last, flanked by security, her posture regal. Reporters shouted, but she paused, microphone in hand. I hit who I was to build a real partnership, she said calmly. But trust is the foundation of any empire, and Alex shattered it. This child deserves better, and so do I. With that, she stepped into a waiting limousine, the door closing on her old life. Back at Harrington Logistics headquarters, chaos erupted. Stock prices plummeted as news broke across financial networks. Employees whispered in the halls, "Did you hear? The boss's wife owns half the world's shipping lanes." Board members convened an emergency meeting, demanding Alex's resignation. "You've bankrupted us," one shouted, slamming a tablet showing cancelled contracts. Alex sat at the head of the table, his empire crumbling. Calls from investors poured in, angry, accusatory. Voss Shipping's official statement was brutal. All affiliations with Harrington Logistics are terminated due to ethical breaches. Sophia, sensing the sinking ship, packed her desk quietly. Alex, I think I need to go, she murmured, but he barely registered it, staring at a photo of Elena from their wedding day. The woman he dismissed as just a wife had been his greatest asset, and he'd traded her for fleeting passion. Weeks later, Elena retreated to the Voss family estate on the coast of Maine, a sprawling mansion overlooking the Atlantic where massive ships dotted the horizon like loyal sentinels. Her pregnancy advanced, and with it, a sense of liberation. Family elders, long skeptical of her marriage, welcomed her back with open arms. You were always too good for him, her uncle said, pouring her tea. Now, take the reins. The company needs you. As labor approached, Elena reflected on the betrayal. The affair had started innocently enough. Sophia interning under Alex, her youthful energy contrasting Alina's growing fatigue during the pregnancy. Whispers in the office turned to evidence. Late-night texts, hotel receipts Elena had uncovered during a routine check. She'd confronted him tearfully, but he'd gaslighted her. "You're imagining things. Focus on the baby." The divorce filing had been her breaking point, but revealing her identity. That was empowerment. The baby arrived on a stormy night, a healthy boy, whom she named Victor, after her grandfather. Holding him close, Elena watched the waves crash, symbolizing the tides of change. Meanwhile, Alex's life unraveled. Harrington Logistics filed for bankruptcy, its assets auctioned off. He moved into a modest apartment, Sophia long gone, chasing her next opportunity. Lawsuits piled up, shareholders suing for fraud, former partners demanding repayments. In quiet moments, regret gnawed at him. "What have I done?" he'd mutter, scrolling through articles about Alina's triumphant return to Voss Shipping. She'd already secured new alliances, expanding the empire while he faded into obscurity. Public opinion swung wildly. Tabloids dubbed it the Heiress's Revenge, with headlines screaming about the foolish CEO who traded billions for a flame. Social media exploded. Memes of Alex as a cartoon villain, threads dissecting Alina's hidden life. Feminists hailed her as a symbol of quiet strength, while business analysts praised her strategic patience. She played the long game, one pundit noted on CNBC. Harrington was a pawn in her boardroom. Alina's new chapter began with a board meeting at Voss headquarters in New York. Dressed in a power suit, baby Victor in a carrier.